In 1977, evangelical preacher Jim Jones fled the United States with nearly 1,000 followers of his People's Temple cult.
Well, how about you? Is the best thing ever happened to you?
Deep in the South American jungle, they built a new community and called it Jonestown. It was to be their paradise on earth.
The People's Temple was a wonderful mosaic of the whole spectrum of humanity. It was a dream that died on November 18th, 1978.
When outsiders threatened to expose the dark side of their leader, their paradise erupted into violence.
They're killing everyone! Know that you have never been loved so much as I love you right now.
In an apocalyptic final gesture, Jones ordered a mass suicide.
914 people were murdered or drank Kool-Aid laced with poison.
This is the true story of the 5 days that led up to the Jonestown cult suicides. In the late 1960s, America was in turmoil. The civil rights movement, anti-Vietnam War protests, violent demonstrations.
Everyone disperse immediately.
And out of the chaos came a powerful, charismatic preacher, Jim Jones.
A guy like my dad found out what you wanted to hear and see and showed it to you. Whatever you were looking for, or wherever you were running from or running toward, Dad had an uncanny ability to hook into that. It's exhilarating and very attractive. Once you get hooked by that, it's really hard to get unhooked.
Jones called his organization the People's Temple. They called him Father. He offered them a promised land of Christian socialism.
I want you to be like I am. I want you to become what I am. I want you to enjoy the fearlessness that I have, the courage that I have, the compassion that I have, the love that I have, the all-encompassing mercy that I am. I want you to be what I am and something greater.
But a darker side of Jim Jones began to emerge. Former temple members accused him of physical and sexual abuse, mind control, and forced druggings. Hounded by the media, Jones and nearly 1,000 of his followers left California in 1977 and set out for Guyana in South America. And in the middle of the jungle, 150 miles from the capital, Georgetown, they built their socialist paradise on Earth. They called it Jonestown.
Because of Father's example here in Guyana, we're building equipment and doing things to feed hungry people and set up a little town, an actual community or a country of our own where we can live the way we like to live with our own lifestyle.
This is a beautiful place here, and it's fun over here. It's really good.
But despite the image of a paradise on Earth, the rumors of abuse and violence persisted.
From what I've seen, what was reported was true, and it wasn't good, such as torture, abuse, deceit, theft, faked healings, drugging of people, punishing of children, the drumming up of fear.
I am the greatest friend that you will ever have, and I'm trying on every level to protect this community. Are you with me? Are you with me?
There were people with guns and rifles surrounding the assembly. People that I knew for years, with guns. And they weren't pointed outward, they were pointed inward. And so it was a sense of an armed encampment.
Vernon Gosney had come to Jonestown with his 4-year-old son, following the death of his wife.
I wanted to leave as soon as I got there. I was not free to leave, nor was anyone. I had confided in my roommate that I wanted to leave, and that was taking a huge, huge risk. He had at one time attempted to escape, and he was punished so severely that he was literally frightened out of his mind.
We're gonna die here, man. We're gonna die here.
In the autumn of 1978, the allegations of abuse led U.S. Congressman Leo J. Ryan to fly to Guyana to investigate the Jonestown cult. With him were a group of journalists, among them Tim Reiterman.
Jim Jones initially presented People's Temple as an extraordinary institution. Congressman Ryan's trip was designed to find out whether the allegations from ex-members were true, that Jim Jones controlled the members through disciplinary beatings, forcing them to turn over their property and, in some cases, custody of their children, and whether he was threatening people with death if they would leave the organization.
Congressman, I just wanted to say, to thank you. This wouldn't have happened without you.
May I?
Oh, sure. She's going to be 22 in a week.
And don't you worry about a thing, Sherwin. Everything's going to be just fine.
Also flying with the delegation were concerned relatives, including Sherwin Harris, who was determined to visit his daughter Leanne in Jonestown.
People's Temple was something that started out apparently to be a good thing and just turned into a nightmare. My daughter Leanne was brought into the People's Temple by her mother, who was one of the initial members. It was clearly, a dangerous situation. At this point, we knew that guns had been transmitted there. We knew what their attitudes were. We knew that they were that they were Marxist and revolutionaries and people that acted brutally towards their own members. So I don't think there was any illusions on any of our parts.
And if any of your family members...
Ryan and his delegation thought they knew the dangers, but none of them could imagine what fate awaited them in Jonestown. In November 1978, preacher Jim Jones and the people of Jonestown were preparing for the arrival of a congressional delegation investigating allegations of abuse in the isolated jungle paradise.
There was no means of communication with the outside world. There wasn't like, oh, let me run a mile to go to the phone. There's no phone. There's no telephones. There's no televisions. There's no nothing. I think it's difficult to express to people who don't have this kind of experience that, oh, well, why didn't you leave? It's so horrible, it's so terrible. How could you put yourself in that position? When actually, we were working for a cause that we believed in. It's like taking people to the limit and then moving that line, and then moving that line, and then moving that line, and wanting so desperately to believe in the dream and not seeing that the dream has become a nightmare.
One of the few points of contact with the outside was the basketball team. One of the players was Jones's 19-year-old son, Stephen. Days before the arrival of the delegation, they left for a tournament in Georgetown.
Dad was worried about the basketball team leaving and going into Georgetown. He knew the congressman was coming. I'm sure he feared that we might turn against him. And fortunately, Mom saw that happening, and Mom had really made this her cause to get us out of there.
Goodbye, my baby. You take care of yourself. I'll see you real soon.
I remember saying goodbye to her. I remember a long moment of just us looking at each other. I remember tears in her eyes and tears of my own. I remember each of us saying that we'll see you soon. Me believing it. Looking back, I don't think she did believe that would happen. I honestly think she thought she was getting us out of there before all hell broke loose.
When we got off the plane, the first person I saw was my ex-wife, and she was one of their leaders. She was pretty much the true believer, the fanatic, if you will, the type of person who could strap the dynamite on and walk in and take the whole room out. That's the degree of commitment. I wasn't really concerned about getting into Jonestown as much as seeing my daughter. I love my daughter very much. I was committed to my daughter.
People's Temple owned a halfway house in Georgetown, run by Sherman Harris's ex-wife, Sharon.
They're here. They're determined to get in.
Jones's response to the news of Ryan's arrival was immediate.
White night. White night. Everybody report to the pavilion.
He called a white night, code for an extreme emergency, and one of his many techniques to instill fear and maintain control over his 1,000 followers.
If your relatives come with Congressman Ryan, if your relatives come with him, then your relatives! Your relatives are no better than he is!
Congressman Ryan's only means of contacting Jones was via the house in Georgetown.
I better do this alone. Hi. I'm Leo Ryan.
Inside was some of the basketball team, including Stephen Jones.
I remember the congressman showing up. I remember having mixed feelings about it. He's
Are you drawing? Good to see you.
very outgoing, charismatic, genuine man, or so it seemed to me. And you don't get much of that in the temple.
What's your name?
What can I do for you, Mr. Ryan?
Well, I'd like to speak with Jim.
Jim's not here.
Well, you can put me in touch with him.
And at the same time thinking, who do you think you are walking up on our house?
You're gonna have to leave.
Hi. I'm Leo Ryan. You must have heard about me?
Stephen Jones, once or twice.
Your father wants to talk to you.
There was a point at which my father sent orders, funneled through the radio room, everything came through there, and Sharon Amos, that we were to return to Jonestown. The basketball team was ordered to come back.
I want you to come home.
Why?
Why? You need it here is why. Now, McElveen's coming back first thing in the morning. I want you to be on the truck with him. The whole damn bunch of you.
Look, you said it yourself. We're good PR, Dad.
That's all there is to it.
We're having a good time. We're playing basketball.
It's up to you.
Come on! No, it is not up to him! I do not want him having anything to do with that congressman or with the relatives. I want him back here now! You don't give a damn what happens here!
I had known for a long time my father was nuts. I'm one that believes he was sick from very early on. By the time the congressman came, he only had a few more months at the rate he was going with his drug use. He was just slowly killing himself on drugs.
Who do you think's keeping this place together?
I am keeping this goddamn place together!
I know I sent him closer to the edge by refusing to come back at that time. There was no denying that he was losing control. And to a man like my father, it must have been like he was sinking in quicksand, grabbing at nothing.
After several days of negotiation, Ryan finally got Jones's permission to visit Jonestown and chartered a plane to make the 150-mile journey.
Hey, folks, plane's ready. Come on, guys.
When we flew over the jungle, it became pretty clear how remote and inaccessible Jonestown really was.
The plane touched down at an isolated airstrip, more than 5 miles from Jonestown.
When we finally landed on a small dirt airstrip in Port Kaituma, it became clear how difficult it would have been for anyone to leave Jonestown.
Anybody that wants to come to Jonestown, climb on.
I think everyone recognized that there was a potential for danger. When we pulled into Jonestown, my first impression was that this place had taken a tremendous amount of work to produce. To make something from scratch in the middle of nowhere was an impressive feat. There were hundreds of people around the pavilion, and we were escorted there directly to the Reverend Jim Jones.
Mind if I ask you a couple of questions? Why did you decide to let us in now, a year after my first request?
What do we got to lose? There's no barbed wire here. We don't have 3, let alone 300 who want to leave. We're not violent. We don't do violence to anyone.
What about the threats of mass suicide, Reverend?
I only said that it will be better that we commit suicide than kill.
He started speaking in a paranoid fashion about his enemies and began to quietly sort of rant about them.
I cursed the day I was born. I don't know why these people hate me so. In some ways, I feel like a dying man. You don't need to put a bullet in my head.
Thank you.
It was disturbing to hear him sort of put a figurative gun in the hands of those of us who had come to Jonestown to visit. It was also disturbing to hear someone who had the lives of so many people in his hands speak that way.
Vernon Gosney now took his chance. He planned to give a note to one of the delegation, asking for help to leave Jonestown.
If I passed the note and it was unsuccessful, I knew I would be killed. There was no doubt about it.
You dropped this.
He passed the note!
What was that about, Vern?
That was nothing. He dropped something and I picked it up from it, so.
Is your name Vernon Gosney? Did you give this man a note asking to leave Jonestown?
Yes, sir.
And let me tell you, you've got seats on the first plane out of here tomorrow.
Congressman Ryan had no idea of what he had walked into at all.
I'm not sure we should wait till tomorrow, Congressman.
We've got a lot of work to do here.
You're in danger. You have to know that.
We'll be fine. We're in the protection of the U.S. Congress. Tomorrow.
And it was apparent after talking to him that he couldn't really conceive the level of danger that he was in.
It soon became clear that Vernon wasn't alone in wanting to escape.
On that Saturday, the last day, I wondered just how many other people might want to leave.
You bring those kids back here! You bring them back! One second. Don't you touch my kids!
Within hours, it became clear that more than just two people who slipped a note to a reporter wanted to come out. And the tension just radiated out from Jones and those groups of potential defectors. The whole place was paralyzed. As time went on, probably about a dozen people had stepped forward, and they were insistent on leaving.
My name is Vernon Gosney.
Vernon was escaping alone. He would be leaving his 4-year-old son behind in Jonestown. It had been a difficult decision.
I thought my son is black and he's going to be subject to the racism of the United States government, and I thought that this was the better place for him to be. I didn't know. I was confused.
What now?
No, we pack up. Truck's leaving soon.
As the potential defectors began gathering up their belongings, NBC conducted an interview
Bob?
with Jim Jones in the pavilion.
Okay, Reverend. Ready to go. We've heard that security guards with guns had gone around to the houses and warned people not to cause.
Nobody came to see people with guns. I strictly prohibited guns. You don't have to shoot me. Because the media smear does it. I've given my life for people. Serving people.
As the interview went on, Jones grew more and more tense. I think it was sinking in, if it hadn't already, that this visit was not going to play well outside Jonestown.
Are you people gonna just leave us? I just beg you, please, just leave us.
My father, his entire existence lay in the hands of those who perceived him. I think people need to understand that every hour of the day, Jim Jones thought he was a fraud. He knew he was a bad guy. He knew he was a sick guy. He just didn't want anybody else to know.
Hope they shoot the plane down!
I met with my son briefly, and
See you soon, okay?
well, he wasn't of an age where I could tell him what was happening. I hugged him, I said goodbye to him, and that was the last time that I saw him. I don't know what else to say about that moment.
The defectors seemed close to freedom. But would Jones really let them leave his jungle kingdom? "15 defectors were preparing to leave Jonestown, and tensions were rising.
Hope they shoot the plane down!
Jim, why are you so upset? There are only 15 people leaving out of nearly 1,000. I mean, if 400 people were leaving, then I'd be worried.
Things were spiraling out of control. There was a crack that had opened, and the crack was continuing to open. Jones was losing control, and the whole community, in my opinion, was going to crack open completely.
It's only 15 people. When I get back, I'm going to report to Congress that of the 60 people cited by the concerned relatives, none of them wanted to leave. They said they were completely happy. Jim, this is a wonderful thing you've got going.
guess, this changes things, doesn't it?
Some things. Not everything.
That convinced the congressman not to stay behind and process any more defectors, that he needed to leave with us on the truck.
What happened?
A minor disagreement.
We were in serious danger
Hey, let's roll.
because the congressman was, in some ways, our protector. To see him with blood spattered on his shirt from his assailant and all disheveled showed just how precarious our situation was.
When that truck is pulling away, I have no faith whatsoever that we're ever going to get out of there.
The protection of Congress could do little for them now. Here, in the jungle, Jones was king.
Leanne?
The news of what was happening in Jonestown hadn't yet reached the Temple's house in Georgetown, where Sherwin Harris was finally meeting his estranged daughter.
When I first saw Leanne, it was like nothing was between us.
Come inside, we're just about to sit down.
We hugged and, you know, and kissed, and it was just wonderful to see her.
I wish you could see the wonderful work, the great work that we do. You'd see there's nothing to be concerned about.
And I know she felt the same way to see me.
How long are you thinking of staying?
A couple of weeks, maybe even a month. We could tour around. You could show me things.
But Jim Jones was making very different plans. For the People's Temple, the end game was about to begin.
Please take care of everyone there.
Everyone, Jim.
Everybody. In Georgetown. Everybody. Relatives, too. Just take revenge.
Things were going bad. We've been ordered to get revenge. Revenge meant go out and kill people. Concerned relatives first, maybe members of the congressman's party, but those who had turned against us would have been considered the worst enemies.
Leanne, here's a call for you.
We had just gotten a message, and Leanne came down. Leanne was having dinner with her father, and Leanne was told by Sharon.
Leanne, the orders just come through. We have to die.
Okay.
She very calmly took the news, and I was just struck by that. Oh, this is really real, and how surreal that was.
Should I go back to dinner?
You better have him leave, your father.
This is a 21-year-old girl who's just been told, end the dinner with your father because we're going to have to kill ourselves. And I was overwhelmed with fear at that point, just dread and fear of what must be going down in Jonestown.
White night. White night.
Everybody, report to the pavilion immediately. White night.
It would be Jonestown's final white night. On Jones's orders, a lethal mixture of potassium cyanide and tranquilizers was mixed in with soft drinks.
I think that for Dad, his view of existence was so bleak that he thought it was best for everyone to check out.
It has been said by the greatest of prophets from time immemorial No man may take my life from me, but I lay my life down. Now, here's what's gonna happen in the matter of a few minutes, is that one of the people on the plane is gonna shoot the pilot. And down comes the plane into the jungle, and we had better not have any of our children left when it is over, because they will parachute in here on us.
"5 miles away at the airstrip, defectors and delegations thought they were close to freedom. But it soon became clear that Jones had different plans.
Okay, let's start getting back on the plane. He's fine.
Everybody spread out!
They're killing everyone!
The gunfire died down. Then there were several deliberate shots over the space of maybe a half minute. And then there was silence.
Soon, there would be silence in Jonestown, too.
Someday everybody dies. Someday that hole runs out. I'd just like to choose my own kind of a death for a change. I'm tired of being tormented to hell. That's what I'm tired of.
I look about at the babies, and I think they deserve to live. You know?
Yeah, I agree. I agree, but don't they also deserve much more? Don't they deserve peace?
Yeah, right.
It's all over. The congressman has been murdered.
When do I pick you up tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Whenever you like.
I like 7 in the morning.
Okay.
Good. Leanne.
With the temple crumbling, Stephen Jones took off.
I needed to get away from it. I needed to find out more information, maybe gather ourselves. And with the hope that we would learn something other than the madness we were hearing from Sharon.
My ex-wife came out from downstairs where the radio room was and kissed me goodbye on the cheek.
I just want to thank you.
And when she kissed me goodbye, that was really goodbye. You know, I was feeling rather buoyant overall. You know, we had plans for the next day. I felt we're making certain inroads. I felt they got the message.
See you tomorrow, 7 a.m. Pegasus Hotel, please.
So I felt very upbeat, and I felt that we're making progress.
Sharon Amos was one of the small percentage of the temple membership that I viewed as a zealot. And certainly by the end days, she was every bit as sick as my father was. I know that woman loved her children dearly. And this is in no way an explanation or an excuse or a defense of what she did. But for her, she thought she was saving them.
We give them our children, and our children will suffer forever. We win when we go down. Born out of due season, well, I've been born out of due season, just like we all have. And the best testimony we can make is to leave this goddamn world.
In Jonestown, the end was near.
You know, so much of it feels like fate. Every possible ingredient that could be thrown into this disastrous recipe was thrown in there. You know, you've got my father who's already unraveling.
Are you gonna separate yourself from who shot the congressman? I don't know who shot him.
And you've got a demoralized, malnourished, exhausted populace, and the people of Jonestown. They were also crazy on some level because of what they'd been put through by my father.
It's just simple. Just please get some. Just get it.
And then who were the first to die? The children were the first to die.
There were 300 children in Jonestown. 30 of them had been born there, born into Jim Jones's version of paradise.
Get moving. Get moving.
I'm sure many people believed that they were lost, that they were going to come in with force, and their children were going to be taken from them, and they were going to die or suffer greatly.
Can some people assure these kids of the relaxation of stepping over to the next plane? They set an example for the others. They take it to fall asleep. That's what death is.
And even those that still wanted to get out of it, where were they going to go at that point? How are they going to get out of it?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
No, no, no. No.
I don't care how many screams you hear, I don't care how many anguished cries. Death is a million times preferable to 10 more days of this life. If we can't live in peace, then let's die in peace. Take our life from us. We laid it down, we got tired. We didn't commit suicide, we committed an act of revolutionary suicide protesting the conditions of an inhumane world.
Jones had finally, tragically, brought his people to the promised land. Soon, a handful of survivors would emerge to confront the horror.
He was a
5 miles from the horror of Jonestown, journalist Tim Reiterman returned to the airstrip and found a scene of carnage.
I saw several bodies on the ground. Don Harris of NBC, Congressman Ryan, Greg Robinson, the photographer with me, Bob Brown of NBC, Patricia Parks, one of the defectors. All of them were dead.
As well as the dead, 11 people, Tim Reiterman among them, had been wounded. Later that night, Stephen Jones returned to the house in Georgetown.
As I opened the door, the first thing I saw was the babies, and they were dead, clearly gone. It was just horrible. And Leanne wanted so much to please her mother. The love of a daughter for a mother, there's probably nothing like it. And what I learned later was that they actually killed each other by slitting each other's throats.
I came to several hours later, and I knew it was several hours later because it was dark. I could hear people walking through the bushes. What it was, in fact, was people looking for survivors.
A few temple members inside Jonestown had also survived. Some escaped into the jungle. 76-year-old Hyacinth Thrash had hidden under her bed. She emerged to witness an apocalyptic scene. The bodies of more than 900 members of the People's Temple, killed in the space of just a few hours.
I lost everything that day. I lost brothers and sisters and dear friends, people I'd known my entire life, and the dearest person on the planet to me, which was my mother. My father, well, I can tell you I've never grieved his death. I remember feeling disgust that he didn't go the way everybody else went. Not only did he have to be shot in the head, but he had to have somebody else do it. And I still believe it was because he couldn't bear to go out the way he was seeing other people go out.
One of the myths of Jonestown was that it was a mass suicide, whereas in fact it was a mass murder. It happened because Jim Jones didn't want word to get out to the outside world what was going on inside his community.
There were a lot of reasons I think that people ended up taking the poison. I don't know who took it, who was injected. I think more than anything, it was out of loyalty to everybody else there. In my case, if I had been there, I know I had a strong will to live, but I think that it was so important to me, or how I was perceived by the people of my community was so important to me, that it might have taken me to my death.
The loss of my son has been the most difficult thing in my life to deal with. my sense of remorse, my sense of guilt, like going back to that moment a million times and making a different decision. To find some level of peace and some level of forgiveness has been the most challenging thing for me.
I love my daughter very much. I've lost her. I'm suffering, truly suffering with the grief of that all these, for years. And I came to see that I was really holding on to the grief as if if I let it go, I'd be letting go of her. And I thought, that's not right. And I came to see that I could hold my daughter as a loving memory forever and let the grief go.
Ask yourself, what would someone have to tell you? Or what would someone have to do to you to get you to do something that you couldn't possibly believe you were capable of? And examine that. Learn from it. Don't judge it. Don't stand separate from it. Be willing to stand in the shoes of the people you're judging. And I hope that, 900 plus people, that they died, and the way they died, might offer us something so that their lives won't be in vain.
Next Tuesday, True Story examines the darker side of the worldwide diamond trade. More details coming up.